Jada, I love you. G.I. Jane 2, can't wait to see it. All right? that was a nice one. Okay. I'm out here. Richard. Oh, wow. Wow. Will Smith just smacked the shit out of me.
He was hilarious but never crossed the line, emotional but never too raw, smooth without trying too hard. Parents respected him and kids wanted to be like him. From blockbuster sagas to tear-jerking dramas, Will didn't just act in hits, he defined what a hit looked like. He stood for clean success, good vibes, and that classic Hollywood belief that fame could still feel wholesome. But then, something started to crack. Not an explosion, not a single wild night, more like a slow fade of perfection. Bit by bit, the shine began to chip away, and the public couldn't unsee it anymore. The wild part isn't just what changed, it's how fast it all flipped. One minute he's the ultimate good guy, and the next, he's the internet's favorite headline. The memes hit first, then the jokes, and before anyone could blink, the stories turned legal, heavy, and strange. Stuff no one ever imagined tied to his name. People point to one major moment, when the world suddenly got front row seats to his personal life.
Hey everybody, I just wanted to talk about something really important. Earlier this year, I was hired to be a performer on a major tour with somebody who is huge in the industry. So I was excited, proud of myself for getting the opportunity. Unfortunately, some things happened, and I can't get into the details of exactly what that was, because it's already a legal issue right now. But the reason why I'm speaking out about this is because getting fired or getting blamed or shamed or threatened or anything like that, simply for reporting sexual misconduct or safety threats at work, is not okay. And I know that there's a lot of other people out there who have been afraid to speak up, and I understand. And if that's you, I see you. And that's pretty much it.
When Jada Pinkett Smith publicly spoke about an entanglement, it didn't feel like harmless gossip anymore. It felt like the start of something much deeper, something that shook the perfect image everyone thought they knew. It turned into a full-blown spectacle. Not because love or relationships are ever simple, but because this one unfolded under the world's microscope. And once the internet got involved, things spun out fast. Suddenly, people weren't laughing with Will Smith anymore. They were laughing at him. Every clip spread like wildfire. His face became meme material. Every reaction dissected frame by frame. Every interview replayed until even the smallest awkward moment became viral content. The internet started crafting its own version of the story, one that didn't match the confident, unshakable persona Will had spent decades perfecting. Still, for a while, plenty of folks felt for him. They saw a man caught in embarrassment, not someone to blame. But then came that night, the Oscars. The world froze as Will Smith walked up on stage and struck Chris Rock live on air. To some, it wasn't power. It was pain breaking through in real time. That single move shattered an image built over a lifetime. In seconds, he went from Hollywood's golden man to someone people couldn't figure out how to defend anymore. But the drama didn't end there. Not even close. Because once the memes cooled down, the think pieces faded and the public apologies made their rounds. Another chapter started bubbling up. This one was darker, less about gossip, more about serious claims, court filings, legal talk, and workplace allegations that could actually change things for real. Then came a quiet ripple. A small video barely anyone noticed at first. It wasn't flashy, didn't come from a big influencer, just a simple post by a professional violinist named Brian King Joseph. In that clip, Brian spoke softly, choosing every word with care. He didn't drop names or point fingers, just hinted, using cautious, deliberate language, about being mistreated in ways that made listeners stop and think. Brian King Joseph spoke about feeling unsafe, describing what he called serious workplace issues while working near someone powerful in the entertainment world. At first, barely anyone saw the clip. He wasn't a mega influencer, just a respected musician sharing his truth with quiet caution. Without names games or drama, the post didn't catch the algorithm's eye. It faded fast. But when court documents later went public, everything changed. This wasn't just online chatter anymore. It became official. According to those filings, Brian King Joseph filed a formal lawsuit naming Will Smith and a company linked to tour operations. The details laid out in those pages were serious, and they shifted the whole conversation overnight. In the lawsuit, Brian claimed he was brought into a major tour project early, but the setup didn't feel like a normal mentorship. He described extra attention, private talks, and one-on-one time that felt more personal than professional.
You see the hundreds of celebrities that I've done business with, done things with. During the latter years of our relationship, Will was not my friend. I was his friend. I could tell you what goes on the inside. Everybody else is just speculation. And then I've saw acts that when I walked in on.
Who'd you walk in on?
Him and Dwayne Martin. Door to Dwayne's dressing room, and that's when I see Dwayne and having sex with Will. There was a couch, and Will was bent over on the couch, and Dwayne was standing up, killing, like murder. It was there.
At first, Brian reportedly took it as a huge compliment. After all, a global superstar recognizing his talent. That's the kind of opportunity no artist would question. But over time, he says that attention started to feel different. The excitement faded, replaced by discomfort. The filing goes on to say that professional boundaries began to blur, the kind of situation where the line between work and something more personal just disappears. Brian claimed he felt increasingly cut off from the rest of the team, like the walls were quietly closing in. And then came what the lawsuit calls a key incident, a night in Las Vegas that changed everything. Brian said he returned to his hotel room, booked through tour staff, and immediately sensed something wasn't right. Nothing was broken, no forced entry, but the space just felt off. According to the filing, earlier that same day, Brian's bag, the one holding his room keys, had mysteriously gone missing during tour logistics. At the time, he brushed it off, but later, that missing key suddenly mattered. Inside the room, Brian said he found items that weren't his, things that didn't belong there, and described the discovery as deeply unsettling. It wasn't chaos or destruction, but a quiet kind of wrong that left him shaken. Inside that hotel room, Brian says what he found didn't make sense. A red backpack that wasn't his, a beer bottle wiped clean, and even hospital discharge papers with someone else's name on them. He also described finding a prescription bottle labeled for another person, which instantly raised red flags. But the most chilling detail, according to the lawsuit, was a handwritten note, one addressed to him by name. The message allegedly implied that someone intended to come back. Brian said the note felt like a warning, a signal that something unwelcome was expected of him, something he never agreed to. Alarmed and unsure what to do, he reportedly reached out for help right away, contacting hotel security, calling a local non-emergency police line, and alerting the tour's management about what had happened. The filing says security footage from the hotel was reviewed, but what they found only deepened the confusion. There was no sign of a break-in, no random intruder slipping through the halls. Instead, the lawsuit claims the footage showed movements tied to authorized access, meaning someone connected to the tour might have had entry. That discovery turned the whole situation from strange to serious. And then, according to Brian's account, came the real breaking point. When he tried to raise his concerns, the response wasn't care or concern. It was cold dismissal. No one asked, "Are you okay?" or "Let's figure this out." Instead, he says he was accused of making things up, pressured to stay quiet, and told the tour was moving in a different direction. Soon after, he was reportedly let go and replaced. In the lawsuit's framing, that timing wasn't random. It looked like retaliation. A man raises a report, and right after, he's out the door. The kind of sequence that once written in legal ink turns whispers into something impossible to ignore. After Brian's report, things took a sharp turn. His claims were challenged, and the person who spoke up, him, was suddenly gone from the picture. According to his filing, the fallout didn't just end with losing his position. Brian described the emotional toll as heavy, anxiety, distress, and long-term psychological strain that didn't fade with time. Meanwhile, Will Smith's legal team came out swinging with a strong denial, rejecting every allegation and making it clear they plan to fight the claims in court. And that's where things stand legally. Two sides, two very different stories, waiting for the system to decide what's real and what's rumor. But outside the courtroom, the story took on a life of its own. Once a name as powerful as Will Smith's appears in court documents, the internet does exactly what it always does. It digs, connects dots, and brings everything back into the spotlight. Old interviews, old clips, and old rumors suddenly look different through this new lens. Still, it's important to remember, online speculation isn't the same as legal proof. But that didn't stop the public conversation from exploding. Once the lawsuit became public, people began comparing it to other high-profile cases, not claiming it was the same situation, but saying the pattern felt familiar. The structure, influence, blurred professional lines, emotional pressure, and then dismissal when someone finally speaks up struck a nerve. That's part of why Brian's filing hit harder than most expected. The language in the lawsuit is intense, not describing one dramatic event, but a steady pattern that allegedly unfolded over time. It paints a picture of a tension that slowly shifted, boundaries that quietly moved, and emotional dynamics that built until they couldn't be ignored. And that framing, a gradual, controlled unraveling, was exactly what made people stop scrolling and start talking. The Las Vegas incident wasn't just confusing or random. It marked a turning point. In the lawsuit's words, it was a moment of decision. Stay quiet and accept what's happening, or push back and risk everything. Brian said he chose to push back, and that's when the door slammed shut. That part shook people because they've seen the same kind of response play out before in other celebrity controversies. Firm denials, no acknowledgement, and everything handled strictly through lawyers. Once a lawsuit hits the public record, the internet reacts instantly, and it never just stays on the current story. It starts digging into the past, reviving old clips, forgotten interviews, and claims that once got brushed off as mere gossip. One of those resurfaced conversations online involved a former associate who spoke in an interview about Will Smith and actor Dwayne Martin. Will Smith's side responded quickly and firmly, publicly rejecting those claims as completely false and saying they were financially motivated. That's not a verdict or a judgment, just part of a broader public discussion that tends to flare up whenever new legal filings appear. But then, some online voices started rewinding even further, back to Will Smith's early career. They pointed out how fast he rose in Hollywood, how doors opened for him at lightning speed. Will himself has been open in past interviews about being reckless with money when fame first hit, spending big and later dealing with serious financial fallout. He's talked about being wildly famous yet feeling vulnerable behind the scenes, trying to keep his footing while the spotlight kept getting brighter. And in entertainment, vulnerability can attract powerful people, the ones who show up offering help, guidance, and opportunity. But sometimes that help comes with expectations that blur the line between favor and control. And that's the kind of dynamic this new lawsuit is forcing everyone to look at again. This is where the conversation widens, where the focus shifts from one man's story to the gatekeepers of the industry. A name that keeps coming up in these discussions is Benny Medina, a heavyweight Hollywood insider known for his deep connections and major influence. Over the years, various public allegations have been made about Medina, none proven in court, and they've fueled endless debate in the media and online spaces. It's important to be clear, these are allegations, not findings of guilt. Different people tell different versions of events, yet Medina's name continues to surface whenever talk turns to the hidden power circles of Hollywood. Another name that's often mentioned in long-running Hollywood chatter is Quincy Jones, the legendary music producer and cultural icon whose reach in the industry is massive. Some online narratives claim that in entertainment, big career leaps aren't always about pure talent. Sometimes they're about access, influence, and who opens the right door at the right time. Now, to be fair, there's no verified evidence of any wrongdoing between Will Smith and Quincy Jones. Still, rumors and speculation have floated around for decades, not because of proof, but because of how the public views the power dynamics behind fame. It's the age-old question: how much of success is earned and how much is granted by those already holding the keys? Legally speaking, none of that background noise matters. Only evidence, testimony, and what can be proven in court will decide Brian King Joseph's case. Will Smith's team has firmly denied every allegation listed in the lawsuit, making it clear they plan to contest all claims. But culturally, the hit has already landed, because Will Smith wasn't just another Hollywood star, he was the example. The proof that you could be a megastar, keep your image spotless, and still represent stability and family pride. And now, that once solid image is being tested in the harshest spotlight imaginable. Once that spotless symbol begins to crack, the questions go way beyond the allegations. People start re-examining everything. The image, the marriage, the silence, the outbursts, the moments of defensiveness. All of it suddenly looks different. So is Will Smith guilty? No one knows yet, but has the public's perception shifted? Absolutely, because whether this lawsuit wins or falls apart, one thing is already clear. People don't see him the same way anymore. That shining pedestal he once stood on, it's gone. The benefit of the doubt has grown thinner, and in today's culture, when trust breaks, it's almost impossible to rebuild. This isn't about canceling anyone. It's about accountability in an industry where silence has often been the currency. If Brian King Joseph's claims hold up, then his story becomes way bigger than one celebrity. It becomes a case study in how power moves behind the curtain, how careers can be shaped or controlled, and why speaking out still feels risky for so many. But if those claims don't hold under legal pressure, the lawsuit will fall apart on its own. Either way, the conversation isn't dying down anytime soon, because Hollywood isn't in full control of its own narratives anymore. Not like before. The internet has become the new stage, deciding which stories rise, which ones fade, and which questions never stop echoing. So now the question hangs, is this the start of another huge reckoning in entertainment? Is one that forces people to finally face the power games inside fame? Or is it a storm of rumor, resentment, and projection aimed at a fallen icon? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If this breakdown opened your eyes, make sure to hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss what's next. This story's still unfolding, and every new update could change everything.